Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajassa Sunantu Sagga Mukkadam Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. Friends, today, 10th August 2024, we are going to discuss the fourth Dhamma talk on Nibbana. The topic is, for this particular the talk, the process of the sansaric journey of beings. That is the topic. The process of the sansaric journey of being. We started this series of talks by imagining that we were on a journey heading towards Nibbana. On the way, as on our sansaric journey, we will be faced with many pitfalls. Along the way, our first name word is Samma Ditti, or right view, which is the first factor in the Noble Eightfold Path. If we ignore this and hurry on thinking right view is not necessary in our search for happiness, we'll later regret it. That casual behavior when faced with the consequences. According to the Buddha, most worldlings or putujjana have two conflicting views about existence and non-existence, or is and is not. This means some believe in eternalism, or the others nihilism, that is, that existence is useless. The one with right view sees the process of arising and the process of cessation, and so avoids both extremes. This is the insight that illuminates the middle path. In the last talk, we discussed the two terms, thisness and otherwiseness. I hope you remember. Thisness and otherwiseness. Also, how the name and form plus consciousness attains full maturity. The movement of consciousness from here, that is from this birth, to a new mother's womb is not the transmigration of a soul. Once this lifespan is over in this world, unless one has got total liberation, that is, either anagami or arahat, according to one's karma, a rebirth will take place. There is no journey of an individual The object for the object for the consciousness to move towards a mother's womb may be an intention or a thought generated immediately before the death takes place in this world. If there was no such object, it could be a latency or anusaya, which is a force that had been lying latent in the mind, but lacking any other means, may be the cause for the next rebirth. Then, name and form produces fresh suffering. That is, when the name and form begins to grow in the womb, this consciousness and name and form can produce new suffering in a new birth. Dhammapada verse, now that is verse number 338 in the Tanha Vagga, may be translated in this way. Just as a tree with roots unharmed, you know, the tree is cut down, but the roots are there without, harming them, and firm. Though once cut down, may sprout again. Even so, in the same way, when latent craving is not rooted out, this suffering gets reborn again and again. This shows that latent tendencies can play a significant role in our sansaric journey. You know, my time is limited, so I have not explained these words very much. But if you have any question at the end of the talk, please ask and I will explain. There are 7 latent tendencies. That is, now I thought I will, give you the latent tendencies in case, I'm sure you must be knowing, but still, I thought I'll give them to you. Now that is sensuous greed, kama raga, grudge, fatiga, speculative view, ditti, skeptical doubt, vichikicha, conceit, mana, craving for continued existence, bhavaraga, and ignorance, avijja. Those are the 7 latent tendencies. I like to discuss a few of these tendencies for you to understand how they become latent. Now, for example, let us take one of them, grudge. It could be a deep-seated feeling of resentment, ill will, envy, or spite, harbored for a long time with resentment for a wrong that may be true or imaginary done to you by somebody else. It can be a burden that one carries through one's whole life. If one does not let go of it in time, when one dies, this enmity may go to the next life and seek revenge. Now I'll take another one, another latent tendency, speculative view. This is always biased and colored by one's own views. This is a certain manner of looking at things, and there could be judgment, one's own opinion, or belief, which may not be based on truth and without actual experience. Some doubt even the existence of the Buddha, the teaching, and the Sangha. So all those are actually skeptical doubt. Now, another one that I took up to discuss with you is mana. Now, mana is conceit or pride. For example, sometimes we hear of this tendency even at temples. Let us say someone with great faith takes full responsibility for offering the Katina robe this year. Another person offers to do it the following year and makes it a lavish pageant. She or he boasts about it, comparing with the simple ceremony of the previous year. Any religious act brings merit to the doer, if only a pure happiness is the result. But the pride, mana, that accompanies this particular instance negates that nobility. Actually, this one who has done this the second year gets very little merit, for the intention is not spiritual. The other latent tendencies also work in the same way. So I'm not going to discuss all those. Out of these 7, the latent tendency of craving holds a significant place in the samsaric journey of a being. You know, we all have this tendency, right? Due to ignorance, worldlings get attached to worldly concepts without understanding them as they really are. They grasp them and lean on them with craving, conceit, and views. One gets swept away or sinks by halting due to defilements, or by way of volitional formations, that is thoughts, get swept away, or by craving and views. Slackness, restlessness, devotion to sensual pleasures, self-mortification, and other unwholesome ways prolong their stay in samsara. This is a latent tendency which can lead to rebirth again and again. The one with right view does not become engaged and cling to any mental standpoint or underlying tendency, and does not take a stand about self. She or he has no uncertainty or doubt that what arises is only suffering, and what ceases is also suffering. Not a person, not an individual, right? It's only suffering that comes up and suffering that goes away. That one's knowledge about this is not got from others, not even from a teacher, but is independently found. The noble disciple, when he reflects upon his personal existence, sees that there is no self or a real existing person, but a mere assemblage of conditioned phenomena arising and passing away, governed by dependent origination or dependent arising. So you can see how dependent origination is related to our sansaric existence. All exists is one extreme. All does not exist is the second extreme. Without bending towards either, the Tathagata teaches the Dhamma by the middle, that is Majjhima Patipada, the middle way. Then the Buddha explains right view by showing the middle path, which is equivalent to dependent arising or dependent origination. The arising and ceasing for the noble disciple is a fact of experience, a knowledge for she or he is not believing in it out of faith in someone, not even in the Buddha, right? Or in any other person, but experiencing through his or her own sixth sense basis. So our sixth sense basis are very useful actually. This is wisdom gained by penetrating into the relatedness of this to that. Now I'm coming with another quotation from the Buddha. For the Buddha says, this being means this existing, this, right? This comes to be. With this, another thing comes to be. With the arising of this arises. This not being, this does not come to be. With the cessation of this ceases. Now I'll give you an example, right? What is this, that, this? It's a little confusing, is it? So now what is the example? You will definitely understand that. When there is birth, what comes up? Decay and death. So this means the birth, and the next this is the decay and death. So with the arising of birth, decay and death arise. That is what it is. You see the example. When one comes to know the arising and ceasing nature of concepts and their impermanent nature, it is possible to abandon the personality view, Sakkaya Ditthi. The ordinary worldling is under the impression that things exist in truth and fact. But the noble disciple, because of this insight into the norm of arising and cessation, understands the arising and ceasing nature of concepts and their instability. Another aspect of arising and falling is understanding the relatedness of this to that. suggested in dependent arising. Now you know how dependent arising comes, isn't that so? Avidya paccaya sankara, sankara paccaya vijnanam, right? And so on. This basic principle is called paticca samuppada. Actually, the paticca samuppada is the one that I told you earlier. This is this coming, this being, the other comes. This arising, the other arises. This ceasing, the other ceases. That is the norm, right? That is the basic principle. The other 12 are the example. The relatedness is revealed in the Nidana Sangyutta of the Sangyutta Nikaya. The Buddha says, conditioned by birth, monks, is decay and death. From beginning to end, existence is a process of decay. But we create an artificial boundary between youth and old age. When we see the advertisements and the smiling faces of boys and girls, the talks about beauty, life, health, etc., that they portray, or timelessness, that's what they say. As if they'll go on forever. And unchangeability, full of happiness and well-being, we get caught up in their trap. The Buddha's solution to this problem is to let go, which means dispassion and detachment instead of grasping and holding on. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha says, now I'm going to give you a Pali sentence. I hope you don't mind, but I'll give you the English too. Hammang kettam, vijnanang bijam, tanha sineho. The meaning is, Kamma is the field, consciousness is the seed, and craving the moisture. So all these three are necessary for a plant to grow. And similarly, for us to grow, right? These three things, what? Kamma, consciousness, and craving. This shows that consciousness grows in one's Kamma with the help of craving. An interesting dialogue between Mara and sailor theory. Sailor theory was living during the Buddha's time, right? Now this happened during the Buddha's time. Is found in the Sagata Vagga of the Sangyutta Nikaya. Mara asked the theory. Now these are the questions that Mara asks, right? By whom has this puppet been? I took this part from the Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Because I thought it was a little more simple. By whom has this puppet been created? Where is the maker of the puppet? Puppet here means, I'm sorry, where has the puppet arisen? Where does the puppet cease? Puppet here means existence. Because in individual existence, name and form is a foundation for suffering. It's the outward appearance, right? The outward appearance of the person. Now the theory answers in 3 verses. This puppet is not made by itself, nor is this misery made by another. It has come to be dependent on a cause. With the causes break up, it will cease. As when a seed is sown in a field, it grows depending on a pair of factors. It requires both the soil's nutriment and a steady supply of moisture. Similarly, the aggregates, you know what the aggregates are, don't you? So the aggregates and elements and these 6 bases of sensory contact have come to be dependent on a cause. With the causes break up, they will cease. The first verse of the theory negates the idea of creation and expresses the conditionality of this body. The second verse illustrates dependent arising. It echoes the Buddha's idea of the field, seed, and moisture. You remember? Earlier we talked about the seed, moisture, and the, the, the nutriment. You remember we talked about the Buddha said that? So it's the same thing is said here by the theory. The theory is replying from the point of view of the Dhamma. It's not simply the visible outward things of name and form. It's the image that falls on consciousness as its object at the time of death. Now, I think I will tell you a little bit about it, what I'm telling you now. Now, you know, when it's about whoever it is about to die, a certain image comes into the mind about where that person will go, right? It can be anything, right? It can be a fire if it is going to hell. If it is an animal, then it could be, you know, some animal that can come. But whatever it is, now that is what it means when you say, it's the image which falls on consciousness as its object, right? The consciousness must have an object. So that is the object that comes at the time of death. The outgrowth from the consciousness and name and form. Now, after that, you see, after it takes on, then comes the aggregates, elements, and bases. All those come after that. Now, there is another sutta called the Channovada Sutta. Channa Ovada, that is the advice given to Channa. And that is in the Majjhima Nikaya. Now, there it says, to the one attached, there is wavering. Wavering means shaking, right? To the unattached, there is no wavering. When there is no wavering, there is calm. When there is calm, there is no inclination, that is wishing, wanting, or bending. When there is no inclination or bending, there is no coming and going. What does that mean? That means no rebirth. Now, this is about an arahant, right? When there is no coming and going, there is no birth and death. When there is no birth and death, there is neither a here nor there, nor in between the two, right? Here, there, nor in between the two. This is the end of suffering. The person who is attached always bends forward. That is, Bending forward means the craving keeps the person wanting to exist again and again, wanting to exist and continue in samsara. Then there is a coming and going. Coming and going means birth and death, right? And also a passing away and reappearing, rebirth. The person with craving as the second or companion passing on for a long time in samsara does not transcend the round, which is of the nature of thisness and otherwiseness. You remember the thisness and otherwiseness that I explained last time? So, okay, he or she cannot get out of it, right? Thisness means birth. Otherwiseness is change, right? This is a journey between here and there. It's like a rotation on the spot. Again, going in the same place, right? In this connection, let us look at now the Satipatthana Sutta. Satipatthana Sutta is very important in this when we talk of the process of birth and death, right? The section relating to the body, Ayanupassana. Now, in this section, I didn't want to quote from the text because it takes a little too long. So I just, took the idea only. In this section, we see how mindfulness of the body is brought about. Now, that is the important message, mindfulness of the body. First, the body is looked at internally. First, the body is looked at internally, then externally. After that, it is looked at both internally and externally. Internal and external body means the inward and outward appearance of the same thing, not another's body, right? Or sees the arising nature of the body or its vanishing nature. The body, how it arises and how it vanishes. Even when we take in the breath, then there is the rising. When the breath goes out, there is the ceasing or vanishing, right? Also, the rising and falling of the body develops a penetrative insight, or one becomes mindful only knowing there is a body. Nothing more than that. That doesn't think this is my body or this is somebody else's body. Nothing like that. This way of seeing makes one independent of the world and not cling to anything. This paragraph is found under all four contemplations. This paragraph that we talked about just now is found under all contemplations, that is body, feeling, mind and mind objects in the Satipatthana Sutta. It's this paragraph that is called the Satipatthana Bhavana. This is the Bhavana that is given in the Satipatthana, or meditation on the four foundations of mindfulness. This paragraph deals with insight, right? Insight, vipassana. Here too, there are a set of twin terms. Now, first one of them is, in this way, he abides contemplating the body as a body internally, or he abides contemplating the body externally. That's the first one of those twin uh, sentences, right? Second one, he abides contemplating the arising nature in the body, or he abides contemplating the dissolving nature in the body. That's the second one. Or else, mindfulness that there is a body is in him only to the extent necessary for knowledge and remembrance. For that he does not think, he or she does not think of the body as mine. There is now, by that time, the idea of self is given up, right? This shows that even the that for the that even the idea there is a body, that is this remembrance, is there just for the purpose of further development of knowledge and mindfulness. The idea that there is a body, even thinking that way, is for the purpose of mindfulness and knowledge, right? And he abides independent and does not cling to anything in the world. So he does not lean on or associate with anything. Now, this part is about an arahant or even anagami, maybe. This paragraph in Satipatthana Sutta is very important. Here too, internal and external are mentioned. If one were to take one's own body and another's body as two separate objects, then one may think that actually there is something that can be called one's own, my body, because there is another one also, right? My body and another's body. But in the next statement, that these two are unified as internal and external. They are shown as being related. Even the words samudaya and vaya, that is rise and fall, are related. What comes next in the Satipatthana Sutta is the mindfulness that there is a body. So, the meditator abides independent and does not cling to anything in the world. Not only the contemplation of the body, but also the sections on feelings, mind, and mind objects are not grasped, but their rise and fall is seen. They provide the upbuilding of mindfulness and knowledge. Further, none of these objects taken as foundations of mindfulness should be tightly grasped. It's important to understand that all these ideas are concepts for crossing over and not for holding on to. Thank you. Would you like to do a little meditation on, say, mindfulness? Okay. Now, you know how to sit and, so take a few deep breaths before you start. I think your eyes are open now still. Isn't that so? So please look a little bit this way and that way and see how much space you have around you. The space that you have. Then you will understand that everywhere there is space. And there is space even inside, right? So let us think of mindfully look while looking at our meditation, uh, think of the spaciousness of the space that is around you. Uh, while we are looking at the breath. So look at the breath as it enters the body and as it goes out. That we call it the rise and fall. It could be looking at the abdomen, that you feel the rise and fall, and then the whole body rises and falls. Look at it how look at it with mindfulness, how it happens. Another important factor is that space that is there, space inside your body, in the head, in the mouth, in the area in the lungs, the all over there is space. When you take in the air, the in breath, you take the air that is in outside, take it inside. And when you let go of it, what you have taken in, you throw out. It's a case of exchange of air this way and that way. And it all happens within that space I told you, in the space that is around you. Think of all these things knowledgeably, mindfully. Go through the whole body, the outline of the body, and then go inside, internally and externally. See the body. See how this body merges with the outside, with the space that is there. It's just there. Now look at it and see whether you can call it mine, my body. Is it my body? Or is it just another part of the universe? Just part of it.
They might not have heard that.
Hmm?
They might not have heard that.
May not have heard.
Say, open your eyes.
Now slowly, slowly open your eyes and become aware of your surroundings. See the space around you. You are just part of that space.
Thank you, Aya.
Okay, so we'll stop then for today. In another 2 weeks, we'll meet again for the next talk, right?